The mood is tense.
Dun dun dun.
That's severe interbreeding. Crossbreeding even, not even breeding. That's weird.
Spare parts
All
left
right.
over.
Good evening. Let's do a quick check here. Mike's good. Everything's up. Haven't used a pure.in before. Sorry, everyone.
All right, we're
right.
live on YouTube. I can see it.
Rocking. All right. Good evening. Usually DMG hosts this, but he has like the bubonic plague or something, so I'm subbing in. And so I apologize if we're a little rickety tonight. But we have some very special guests. We got Jeremy from Black Magic Craft and Luke of Luke's APS. Some of you in the tabletop crafting guild community may not know about Luke, but you really should. And after tonight, I hope you go and subscribe.
A lot of people in our community know about Luke because we caught a lot of shit that he's not a guild master of the Tabletop Crafters Guild as soon as we launched. Luke was the number one. Well, what about Luke? So
okay.
They know.
Good.
They know our friend
Yeah,
Luke.
that's good. That's good. And then we got Lee, one of the big admins of the group. DM Insomnia.
Lee Banhammer.
Yup.
So if you want to call in, I can accommodate, I think, let's see, 4 participants at a time. So we'll try and cycle out here. But if you want to join, you simply put appear.in/Wyloch's Armory. It's in the lower left corner there. You just put that in your browser, and you can call in and we can talk. So.
And chat's going crazy here, so
yeah,
try to keep an eye on what's going on. Hankering Furnails in the chat here. DMG is in the chat, so he's sick, but he's still around if anybody has questions for DMG.
Obviously not poorly enough. How do, man?
right.
Can I share this in my group so we can get some more viewers as well?
Share as much in as many places as you can, for sure. Absolutely. Already got
All right,
40 people here. So.
Thanks, Hankering. All right. So, what do you want to talk about? Or people can chat what they want us to talk about.
Well, I think we should talk about your Wyloch locks. Let's talk about that and the integration.
Yeah, I was driving home from work about a week ago and suddenly had the idea. So I stayed up all night making 8 tiles and threw the episode together, and that was that. That's pretty much it. That's how it happened.
The first thing I got to say about those locks and the chipboard, because I used chipboard in my last video, it was mentioned by a commenter who asked about it. Someone replied with, "It's just cereal box. It's just cereal box. That's all it is." And I want to make it very clear.
No, it's different.
That when Wyloch uses chipboard, it is not just cereal box.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It is not. It is similar, but it's significantly thicker and denser and sturdier. So far superior. You cannot substitute that chipboard with cereal box.
Yep.
And Luke, correct me if I'm wrong, but when I say chipboard to you boys over there, does that mean something completely different? Because I got an argument once with someone about chipboard, and they were telling me that when you use the word chipboard, that in the UK that means what I would call particle board.
When chipboard for us is really cheap stuff, but you can actually see the chips of wood all compressed together in like a resin.
Okay, yeah. So that is what we call in like North America particle board, like in building industry. But when we say chipboard, we're talking about it's like the really, really, really dense cardboard, like Lee's showing there, almost like coaster material or like matting,
So
like
what you
framing.
find at the back of a notepad.
We call that
Legal paper.
we call that cardboard.
It is
cardboard.
Non-corrugated cardboard.
I mean, I had a load of it. I mean, they use it for like their beer mats and things like that. We just call it a hard or a dense cardboard.
Well,
I think
really
it's called
good for crafting.
cardboard. I think that's the proper name for it.
It's good for crafting. And so Luke was just telling me beforehand that you recently discovered D&D. You just started playing D&D.
Yeah, I started playing a month ago, so I started reading the Monsters book, and I really like the idea of the gelatinous cubes. So I've just got into resin casting and everything else. I thought I'll stick some like skeletons and stuff inside a gelatinous cube. Yeah, my first encounter, I shouldn't have done them because then my little brother decided that we were going to use it on a very early game, and yeah, they're a pain in the ass.
So you're a player, it sounds like?
Yeah, I'm a player. I'm not a dungeon master yet.
And
I will have a go at it.
Does your game use terrain or you theater of the mind? Obviously, you use some terrain.
It's like we use a lot of tiles, like printed tiles that are laminated and magnetized, and then we put things on that are 3D. Okay. If it was me, it'd be more like Black Magic Craft stuff, but my brother's a bit more like that'll do. So he's a bit of a lazy gamer.
But it's kind of funny. Like I've talked to a couple like war gamers who then jump ship and pick up D&D, and I found that a lot of the time, a lot of them are not taking all of their skills and terrain from wargaming and implementing it in D&D. They sit down and play D&D and they just draw on a paper and just imagine it, which I find is kind of odd if you have this arsenal of stuff to use and skill. You would expect that the wargamers would have the sweetest looking table set up, but I find a lot of time they say, it's just D&D, I'm not going to bother.
But wargamers don't like terrain. Wargamers would rather spend more money on the mini. I've had this argument with many wargamers, as in you can have an average painted army and a really nice table, and that wins over a very nice painted army and some cups and stuff as terrain.
Yes.
Which is the opposite.
More important.
Which is like the opposite of a lot of RPG players, where people will. I mean, me and Wyloch are perfect examples of that, because both of us spent a good amount of time making really nice looking stuff, making these great scenic things, and then we have paper printed miniatures. It was like the terrain was important, the minis were secondary. Both of us have picked up mini painting since, but it's funny, the focus I found is like reversed for a lot of people in the two different camps.
Your terrain upsets me because I can't build buildings.
You can do what you can do. I'm sure
you can do it.
Nature's way harder, I think.
I find it easy because if you make a mistake, you just chuck a bush on it or something.
But that's the same thing with the building. If you make a mistake, you still put some moss on it. It's the same rule. Just cover it up. Cover it up.
All right. So I'm going to get ready to drop out so someone else can come in. Besides which, I'm going to eat dinner. I did have one question I wanted to throw out, though, just because it's been coming up a lot.
Shoot, Lee.
I've noticed that, you see a lot of people, both that have YouTube channels and those that don't, but they'll make very, very similar crafts, almost identical in how they do it. And there seems to be a little rubbing the wrong way sometimes, as far as, hey, I didn't get credit when this guy did it the way I do it, or something like that. So when you guys build something and it comes up as it's very, very similar to the way somebody else did it, how do you deal with that? Especially if you don't think that you used their idea.
Sorry, are you saying how do we deal with if one of us makes something publicly on our platform, right, and then someone calls us out saying, hey, that's actually, this guy already did that?
Yeah, like you, Jeremy. Let's say you put out this awesome video, go into a whole lot of detail about it, and like 3 days later, someone throws a link to a Wyloch video and says, well, look, Wyloch did it like a month ago and you didn't say anything about him.
I think that actually doesn't come up too much within our smaller niche. Like we'll call it the RPG, like the guild community, because we're pretty aware of what each other are doing. And if I'm going to rip Wyloch off, I'm going to do it knowingly, and I'm going to say so in the video. Like there's no shade thrown about that. Like that's totally acceptable, and we all build off each other's stuff. Where it becomes complicated is that me and Wyloch exist in this corner of the community of terrain building, but then there's the much wider scope of the hobby where Luke is in, and like with wargaming and all this other stuff and terrain tutor and all that. So it definitely can happen that one of us covers something that someone else already has, and we maybe subconsciously stole something. But my motto is that, I don't know, I'm just showing you what I do. I'm rarely claiming to have made something original or unique. Like my most viewed thing, my claim to fame is my basic dungeon tiles, 3x3 XPS foam dungeon tiles. I was not the first person who made that. When I made that video, I made that video saying, hey, this is a thing that people are already doing. It's pretty common. I'm just doing it for people who just stumbled upon this and are really fresh. But all of a sudden that's my tile when it's not my tile. It's super generic. My unique stuff is the stuff like my longboat, where it's like a template that I designed and put like concepts, So I don't know. I don't think it's a huge issue. It only becomes an issue if somebody comes in with a lot of animosity saying, and that happened. Like some of you may have seen that kerfuffle that toss up in our group where someone from the community from very, very long ago got really upset that all of us were doing these videos based on similar techniques that he had published on a website 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
But they were very, very generic, universal techniques that no one could claim to own. And that's not the spirit of our community. We're a community built on sharing. So non-issue? I don't know.
I only asked because it got brought directly to me 3 or 4 different times. And so you've actually explained it exactly how I handled it. So that's nice to know. So if I'm going to bounce out, there's other people that want in. I'll throw stuff up in the chat if I have any other questions.
One thing I do want to say about that, though, in terms of, I don't care. Like if Wyloch Bill rips me off and puts in a video, I don't really care because I don't think he would do that, and I think he would say so, and it's a cycle. What I don't like to see is we have a very strong, big community where people post a lot of pictures. So if somebody takes a very specific craft where they follow a Wyloch video to the T and make that product exactly the same using his technique and they post it up, I don't really love it when someone makes that kind of post that says, hey, this is what I made, without giving credit to the inspiration. But not because I think any of us need the credit or inspiration, but because inevitably there's people who see it and want to know how to do it. So it would be nice if it saved everyone some effort and people could just like link to the source of, hey, I made this. I used this tutorial. So if you want to make this, that's already out there. Because what you see is somebody post something and then someone asking, how did you do that? And it's like, well, they did it by following this set of guidelines that someone spent a lot of time already making. So it'd be easy. It's easier when people say, this is my Wyloch thing. This is my DM Scotty orc tent. And then people know where to look.
Exactly. Okay. So cool. All right. I'm going to bounce out and have
a good night, Lee.
You too, man.
I mean, my add to that is as well. I mean, I'm not really bothered. It's like how many people build hills. You know what I mean? As in, it's all generic crap that's just recycled and recycled and recycled. People might take something that you do a little bit different from that. But at the end of the day, people have been doing this for hundreds of years, and it's been documented in books before the internet existed.
Sure. So model railroad guys have been doing this way before any of us were even born.
It's like when people, like my water effects video, the river, it's got like 1.4 million views. And people think I'm revolutionary. I'm like, I'm pouring resin in a pool. That people have been doing this before the land of time. As in, this is, it's like it's not to do with me. I just researched resin and found one that worked properly. As in, it's not when people say, "How do you get all these ideas?" It's like when I, for example, I've been trying to work out a way to make sculptor mold, and I want to buy paper pulp because the amount that I'm actually using, it's not economic to make the pulp doing how I did in the video. So I rung a toilet paper manufacturer and I said, where do you get your paper pulp from for making toilet paper? And then they said, for the amount that I want, I can't really buy it, but then they told me to check out insulation. So
there you go.
Yeah.
All right, who do we have?
Hey guys.
DM yesterday.
Hey man, what do you want to talk about?
I got a question. Not much. I just got a question. What would you guys do with him?
Bill, you go first.
Do a desert base with like an MDF tapered desert base. Tear him apart and embed him, make him scatter terrain.
That's what I would have gone with too. Skeletal remains of an ancient beast. I'd probably ditch the head, keep the rib cage and all the other bones. It could be like a giant skeleton or something like that. But I'd probably cut that head off and toss it.
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm making him a puppet for my new videos.
There you go.
He's gonna tell when I'm cutting toward myself, he's gonna give warnings. When I'm doing like the razor blade cutting toward myself, he's gonna be like, I have a voice for him and everything. I'm putting red LEDs in his eyes. I'm boarding them out and putting them in electronics. I have 16 of these coming to me.
Give me a good like a familiar or something. Good prop at the table.
Submerge one in water effects.
Well, I was thinking about, since there's a lot of in D&D, there's the giant rodents, but you always see them with fur and everything. I was thinking maybe I don't know if they have a bone one yet, or a skeleton rodent. You know the giant rats they have in D&D? If I remember. So I never thought, I was thinking about maybe having Necronasser call up one of those rats, and he's going to be on the board as one of the giant rats to come up instead. I was going to put fur on them and stuff, but I have so many come to me, I don't know what to do with them. So I like Wyloch's idea of making them scatter terrain. There's my daughter running.
Don't order as many.
I didn't order them. I got them for free.
Oh, there you go.
I got them for free.
If you got that many, here's my idea. If you got that many, take some of them and cut up the bones, like the legs and the femurs, and make the most terrifying encampment fence imaginable. So whatever badass dudes are hanging out in that camp, they killed a lot of big things to make their fence. So
here's an idea from someone in the chat. Now this name is taken. I'd bury him in the side of a huge hill out the side. Saw Terrain Wench do it. Loved it.
What I've made what I'm doing soon is making a remake of Castle Grayskull. But I'm making it out of foam. I'm carving it from scratch.
Okay, we got
the original toy, but the toy that's too big. So, any ideas on how to start making like that? Black Magic's the one that I want to talk to because he's the one that mostly does foam board. While I've seen all your stuff, it's awesome. I love keyboard and cardboard, but I need someone that knows foam.
Sorry, what's the specific question? I got caught up reading the chat.
How could I make a Castle Grayskull out of foam?
There's no, well...
Where would you start?
You would have to just take some foam and start carving it. Like, you're essentially making a sculpture, right? You would have to break down some of the pieces and doing something like Castle of Grayskull, and I'm picturing it like the classic toy Castle of Grayskull, sort of.
Yeah.
You're gonna just have to
Well,
start hacking
smaller,
away
so
and carving it out. I would maybe consider getting a prop Halloween skull that's about the size of scale that you want to use, and then building out around that. But it's going to be a lot of just carving with an X-Acto knife and sculpting it out of foam. There's no real special science answer to that other than you got to carve it.
It's like
foam wrap would help as well.
Okay. I'll post it once I start making it. I only get 2 days off work, so it's a pain in the butt.
That being said,
Wyloch.
Sorry, I was going to say there was somebody who built a foam Castle of Grayskull in the Tabletop Crafters Guild Facebook group at one point, and there was several photos that someone posted of reference stuff. So if you search on the group, you can probably pull that up because there was a lot of cool builds.
Those LEDs in your when you're making the, I'll say Warhammer-esque terrain, with the LEDs, the strips, did you get those on eBay or Amazon?
Oh, you mean
The light up strips.
the icicle lights for the void shield generator?
Although icicle lights, I thought they were just straight like lights that went up and down.
Yeah, they were the posts.
They're icicles?
They're 4 posts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are like Christmas icicles. I got that idea from someone on the
Oh.
40K Terrain Facebook page. But it's in the video where to get them. I had to order them from the UK.
Okay.
So I paid a lot in shipping, but
All right.
they're not available in the States. But I looked
LED?
a lot.
Yeah.
They're
You have to see that video. Video.
Yeah, link me.
let me get it.
The piece that he created for 40K is phenomenal. He copied a real piece but added his own flair to it so well.
Luke, I just put a link in the chat. I scratch built a void shield generator. I don't know if you know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can check that out. That's what he's talking about. And the lights that are in there, I forget. I have it in one of the pop-up text at the bottom of the episode somewhere in there, where to get them. Festive lights, that's what it's called. Festive lights, they're based
Christmas
in the US.
lights.
Yeah, but the company is called Festive Lights, and they're in the UK.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Now, Luke.
Yep.
This is my last question because I have to get a little one to bed.
Yep.
Luke, I just recently got the Army Painters Mega Set.
Yeah.
Is there any tips? Have you used Army Painter paints yet at all?
I'm endorsed by Army Painter. Yeah, agitators, glass balls, lead weights, whatever you want to put in them, and shake them things till you can't shake them anymore.
Now,
my best tip with them is put agitators in them. I put them all in a bag, and then I put them in the dryer for about 10 minutes. Just to
they're
shake they're that bad. If I don't use them for a couple of days, they separate again. But it's one thing that really annoys me about the paint, but they're cheap and they cover very easily and very well. The people that say they're transparent and they don't cover very well haven't shaped them enough. I know people say I'm wrong, but you need to literally give them a stir, mix and mix and mix, and sometimes that's not even enough.
Yeah.
They're
Once
horrendous.
you do, they work really well.
Yeah.
Yep.
But when they work, they work. When they don't
no,
work,
see, I got my airbrush set. I recently got my airbrushes. Like, I'll show you. So, I lost my stuff in a fire, a massive fire. A lot of people know. After I even told Wyloch when I interviewed him for my video show a while back, when I lived in Florida. And a couple people, our community is so nice. I won this one from Dr. Faust.
All right.
Faust Paint Clinic, if you know him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I won this one from his Facebook group, and someone else sent me another one in the mail. And so when I got these two in the mail, I ended up buying myself a compressor and everything, and then I got the Army Painter paints with the compressor.
Mm-hmm.
But someone sent me the paints. I was like, okay, I don't know if they work through. I know these are paint brush paints, but I never thought, I don't know how to thin them correctly for the airbrush. Would you recommend just regular
Water.
Distilled water?
Just water. I wouldn't just water out of tap.
I've used water. You can use flow improver like from Vallejo, which I do use. It performs the same. It just dries out not so quick on the tip. But as far as the mixture goes, you can get the correct consistency using only water, like Luke said. The trick is get it down to like whole milk. So when you tip it back and forth, look in the cup, look at the surface of the mixture. If it's not moving, then it's too thick. If the mixture's moving because of gravity, because you're tipping it, then you know it's thin enough. But no thinner than that.
Cool.
It's always good when the answer is water, tap water. That's a good answer. It's cheap.
Yeah, but the thing is that I live in the mountains up here in the Poconos, and the tap water I have has a lot of iron, so I don't have nothing to clear it out. So I will definitely use distilled.
Grocery store has $1 for like a gallon of distilled water. That's what I use. Yeah, just use that. That's what I use.
I always use distilled water for my coffee. We use it for our coffee. Say hi, everybody. You're live too.
Hi.
All right, I'm done. I have to go. Put her to bed. Night, everybody.
Good night, man.
Thanks for your help.
Thanks for calling.
Thanks for stopping by.
Tips. Good night. And you guys keep on doing what you're doing because you guys create great content. And thanks for all the hard work you guys do.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Bill, I'm getting there's notifications popping up that say other people want to join, but we only have max 4. So I don't know if people are waiting. I don't know how that works. If someone tries, does it just boot them, or do they sit waiting?
They sit waiting, and now.
So first come, first serve. Unless
if we want more than 4 people, we've got to go pro.
Then we got to go pro. Hello.
Hello.
How do we have here?
Hey man, how you doing?
Whoa. Yeah, I'm here.
All right, yeah, we can.
Whoa. Yeah, you can hear me? Nice. Guys, I need to say something first. Wyloch, thank you for everything. Seriously.
Sure.
I do that the tiles that I think you invented, that you create from the 1.25 inch tiles. It's awesome. And let me show something.
Yeah, show us what you made. Sure.
Yeah. Actually, I did bring some.
What's your name, by the way? Why don't you tell us your name?
Oh, sorry. I'm Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah. Hey, Jeremy. You are awesome. I don't know how to express myself, actually. Here, let me show you. How can I change this camera? Oh, nope. Where I change? I don't know. Okay, I would just flip the camera.
Okay.
The old-fashioned way.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's it. Maybe here I will watch.
Very nice.
Oh, there we go. Are those some hybrid tiles I see? Are those 1.25 inch Wyloch tiles but made with foam? Because it kind of looks like it.
Well, like magnetic as well.
Yeah, it's magnetic and it's printed. 3D printed, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, 3D?
Okay.
Yep, and I did use the, I think, open lock system, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And
Nice.
And I did print a bunch of them.
Nice. Cool.
Because this kind of thing, it's addicting.
It
and
is.
It
is.
Yeah, boy. And like that kind of stuff, that's amazing. I just got from you, Wyloch. Sorry. A lot of stuff here, boy. That's all things, man. This is awesome. And I just want to say to you guys, that's actually my. I did quit my job from about 8 months now, I think, and I started printing a lot of stuff, and I started printing to other people, and now I have my own company printing stuff.
That's awesome.
Congratulations. That's great.
That's because of you guys. You just say if you want to do something, do yourself and keep in doing. That's what I did and working for me.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. Actually, I didn't know how to express myself. So thank you. Seriously.
Hey man, thank you. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
We're just a couple guys who like building neat stuff, and we're dumb enough to put it on a camera for some reason. So.
That's awesome, because without you guys, I just didn't start my own company, my own job, and being my own boss.
And can you share the name with us? Put it in the chat so that
put a link if you got a website. It's
a Brazilian only. I don't think I will handle anything for you guys because there's a lot of taxes and a load of shit in between that. But if someone in Brazil doing something, I can share that. Yeah.
I mean, put it in the chat. You never know who might find it. You said you're in Brazil? Is that?
Yep.
Yeah. And there's actually a lot of viewers in Brazil. I know this because it's every day there's questions of where do you get XPS foam every day, every single friggin' day. And a recurring country of origin is Brazil. So I know there's a lot of gamers and crafters in Brazil. So there could be some watching. So by all means, put a link if you got it, use the platform, share your fledgling business, and that's great.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Just thank you. Okay, I will just finish here because I'm too shy to say anything else.
Hey, thanks for phoning.
See you soon.
Take care, man.
See you soon.
Cheers.
All right. I want to party with Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff's a fun guy.
Freaking great.
Living the dream. Living the dream.
Who's next? It's like blind date.
There's someone. Well, this is like the weird, like the crafters chat roulette.
Yeah. Oh, we have one.
Who's naked?
Yeah, who's naked? Wouldn't that be the worst? Ruin Wyloch's channel because someone shows up naked.
So,
Evening, how you doing?
I'll do.
Pretty good. Well, brother. So, you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep, loud and clear, buddy.
All right. So I'm making some of your tiles, Black Magic Craft tiles, and for people that don't have XPS film, I kind of came up with this idea from watching a DM Scotty video on he made dungeon tiles out of out of mat floor mats, you know, the
floor EVA foam, like the gym mat stuff.
Yeah, so I'm trying to make some of your tiles out of that. I mean,
nice.
I don't know if you can see it.
Looks good. I've seen a lot of people have used that stuff for it, and it works really well. I've stayed away from it just because I'm addicted to XPS foam, I think.
Yeah, I don't have a foam cutter, so no.
No, that stuff works great. Also, if you're working with that material, there is a channel, a smaller channel that if you don't know about it, it's called Roll for Damage, and he uses a lot of that foam as well, I believe. So there's probably some cool techniques and stuff to be learned from him that none of us are showing because we don't use the stuff.
One good thing about that foam as well, it's great for terrain because it bends, as in it's hard because it moves, as in it's got flex, so it becomes very hard. It's hard to chip, it's hard to knock, and it's great for terrain building. Even though it is spongy, it's still good for it.
So,
you guys in your workshop right now? Can you pan down and show us what else you got?
Actually, it's our little
the basement
makeshift right now. Yeah, so got some little stuff, mini
crap
and such. Yeah, a bunch of crap. So my little brother's a really good painter. Actually, he's working on tiefling right now. So
nice.
You can see him. Yeah, so got my 3D printer back there. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of
little workshop. Little workshop with a 3D printer. I don't even have a 3D printer. Come on, man.
The CR10, yeah. I'm trying to get a job in 3D printing, and I was like, hey, I can use it for D&D.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Hey, Black
Yeah.
Magic
All
Craft.
people overseas say you've got small rooms. Come to England.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
guy
yeah.
Luke lives in a closet. I'm pretty sure it's an attic.
It's a 14 by 12 room. I mean,
And in the sprawling North American basement, like 1,400 square feet with 10 feet ceiling. That's really small. Like I gotta sit here next to this pool table. It's really inconvenient.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, so this is our little, I guess, crafting area. The good old purple worm.
Oh
Nice.
yeah, everyone's
DM Scotty
made it.
classic.
You got to do one of those.
Yeah, all right. Well, don't want to take all your time. Get another caller in or something. My little brother wants to say something real quick.
What's up,
I guess.
little brother?
What are you painting right now?
What's that?
What miniatures are you painting right now?
What am I painting right now? I finished a batch of infantrymen that I posted. I finished those last night. So I'm not technically painting anything yet till this show's done, and then I'm gonna jump on painting some stuff. I don't know what it is yet, but I keep on my desk usually about a dozen or so minis that are primed and set up on cork and ready to go, so that when I have a free time to paint, I can just grab something and do it. And those sit there for a long time, and I paint one or two of them, and then I buy some stuff, and then I paint those. So I don't know what I'm gonna paint next, to be honest. I might prep the WizKids. I bought about 6 of those WizKids Knoll minis.
Yeah.
So that might be the next thing.
Yeah, right now I'm primed WizKids Archer Mini
Nice.
and primed Metal Crusader miniature. I don't know, just a bunch
Awesome.
of crap, you know. Paint up whatever you got.
Yeah.
It doesn't
All
matter
right.
what you're painting, as long as you're painting something.
Cool.
So
Yeah, all
I'm painting
right.
a dragon soon, so.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. That's freaking awesome. Big fan. Subscribe to all of you.
Awesomeness. See you guys.
Thank
cheers,
you
guys.
for calling in.
Keep painting.
cheers, man.
Jeez.
Cheers.
Oh, hang on. I'll just show you what I'm working on in a minute.
Yeah.
Cheers,
please
guys.
do.
Keep painting.
Uh-oh.
Hank! It's my boy Hank, and he's in a cardboard box.
Oh, hang on. I'll just show you what I'm working on in a minute.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys. Keep painting.
What?
It's Hank.
What in the
My
hell?
boy Hank, and he's in a cardboard box.
What in the?
Hang on. I'll just show you what I'm working on in a minute.
Look what I got.
You got the crazy the share box thing that I keep seeing going on.
Luke, did you have real quick, Luke, did you have a mini you want to show us?
Yeah,
Some kind of lag going
It
on.
is a miniature.
I'm just here to say you guys are cool. You are not prepared for the war that is coming.
Oh, Hank.
Now I need to dramatically hang up, but I don't know how.
Love you, brother.
Yeah, that's one more.
All right, that was.
Oh, that
happened?
looks sick.
All right.
That looks sick, Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
That's some of the trees in my new range.
So is that a display board, or what is that? Or is that?
These
what's that
are for when I go to shows, people can see the level of my work. It's
Nice.
just advertising what I can do if they pay the right money.
So those are your trees. Okay,
Yeah.
before we started this, Luke was telling us about his upcoming company. So by all means, Luke, let the world know what's coming up.
Yes, Foam Flocks in the UK was very hard to come by apart from Woodland Scenics. And we all know that the Woodland Scenic stuff it's not the cheapest, but it does last a long time. It is a very good product. I mean, I still use it. But in the UK, there's no other alternative. It's all sawdust, and anybody that knows anything about sawdust flocks is it doesn't stick. It doesn't matter how much you seal it, it's horrible to work with. Whereas foam absorbs everything and sticks well. So in my frustration of looking into how to find any, I thought, stuff it, and I brought out my own range. So it's a very large, extensive range of foam flocks. And it's not just foam flocks, we're going to be bringing out trees, flowers. I'm doing all my own grass tufts that I manufacture in-house. Yeah, and it's all...
Do you already have it available for purchase? Like,
yeah, the pre-orders, the people that pre-ordered, it's all going out in the post on Monday.
Okay.
Which there was over 150 people that bought it.
What's the website for?
The website is geekgaming.co.uk. They're my affiliate that deal with everything.
Okay, so they're stocking it for you. You're not doing the sales. You're just doing it.
They deal with everything for me because obviously I can't deal with posting, packaging, dealing with customers. I can't do it all plus keep a business running, so they do it all for me.
I will tell you that that's a smart way to go, just in terms of my history in music, selling merchandise.
Are you a musician?
A little bit.
I'm a professional musician by trade.
Little bit. That's my other life. I'll send you some info privately for what it was. But they're sending, a big part of my music business was shipping merchandise, vinyl records, CDs, T-shirts.
Yep.
That is not a profession. I'm not interested in being a shipping and receiving department. So if you can get someone else to do that for you and just send one big load, that's the way to go.
Yeah. No, I'm a working musician by trade.
I was like, that was the real dream, was to be a full-time musician, and I'll just say that didn't pan out nearly as well as being a nerd on YouTube did. So this D&D terrain building YouTube has all but killed the musical side of my life. Actually, that's not true. The real story is that I was a touring musician, like not as my full-time job, but it was a big part of my life. And then I had a kid.
Yeah.
And then music got put on the back burner, and I decided while I was at home with a kid and the new dad life, I started building terrain because it was a hobby that I could just walk up to, then walk away from. There was no commitments. I didn't have to be committed to shows. And then it spiraled out of control. And 3 years later, I'm doing this and haven't released an album in a couple of years. So one day we'll get back to it. One day.
It sounds very similar to me, because I've been a working musician now for 9 years. My full-time job for 9 years. I got into the hobby 3 years ago, same as you.
Yeah.
More down to with a failing relationship because of the band that I was in away all the time. You know,
I'll tell you, terrain building and YouTube is a much better outlet for relationships than being a musician is. Being a musician is not a great thing for family life or your love life.
I think my band career is a little bit different to you though, because I do all the cabaret scenes. I'm very I do all the holiday camps and all the
classes. No, I was very opposite. I was doing festivals in corpse paint and being a crazy person, and very not the cabaret.
Yeah,
that's for
cabaret. It's weird, that, isn't it? Strange.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It's the musical mind is very similar to the game master mind, and is very similar to the terrain building. Much like Wyloch, Bill is an engineer, and I think that translates really well to building.
I also play drums.
Do you play drums? There you go.
About 20 years.
So there's this certain creative part of the brain, I think, that being a musician, being an artist, being a terrain builder, being a YouTube person, all that, it's kind of the same part of the brain, I think. So
one thing I want to ask all of you guys, have all of you worked in sales?
In sales? Not really.
No.
I mean, if you count being a teenager and working in a record store as sales, sure. But no, I've been a contractor my whole adult life, carpenter, doing renovations. Now I got off tools and I'm a construction manager, so I manage big projects, but I've never been a salesperson until YouTube. I think technically we're all salespeople now. In a way.
Yeah. That's what I mean. It's like most successful YouTubers. If you look back, especially in the gaming industry, if you look back at all their history, they're all like top sales people.
Yeah, and that's true, and that's a good background to have. And some of the channels that I've seen go super fast and peak and have been guys who are professional salespeople. I would say that I was a salesman in the sense that I was a musician, which meant that I had a band, which I had to brand, I had to market, I had to do brand identity for, I had to promote, I had to sell that. So that's what came over to YouTube, but I never sold cars or anything like that. Thankfully, it's not for me.
Yeah, I used to sell insurance. So.
And Bill, why don't you tell us about your life as Homer Simpson?
I'm a nuclear engineer, so I work at a nuclear power plant, and I'm the manager of the reactor engineering group. So we monitor the core's performance. And, that's pretty much it.
Sounds deep.
Yeah, you're much smarter than me in that sense, which is why you came up with 1 1/4 grids, and I refused to adopt. So
it's just a number.
I'm gonna say I'm more of a budget and it'll do sort of guy.
Yeah.
whereas like somebody like yourself, well, I think you're more methodical and plan it out before you do it. Whereas I'm more of a like, oh, that'll do.
Since you've recently discovered, I guess, tabletop RPGs as opposed to war games, and I guess maybe you're starting to dabble, do you think you'll start doing things on your channel more at a micro level, like room scenery or maybe tiles?
The thing is, I mean, you'll know yourself, like making room terrain. It's just as easy to buy it. By the time I've spent hours making like a bookshelf, like an hour and a half, 2 hours, I can buy one for like £1 off eBay. Because this is a business for me now, so obviously time's money, as you all know. And there's certain things that I can't see the point in building. But if I mean, at the minute I am sculpting loads of barrels, boxes, food, because I'm going to be bringing that out as like little bits of resin terrain to go with all the market stalls and stuff, because I'm playing Gangs of Rome at the minute. So obviously I'm going to be selling stuff that's in theme with that, because I'm going to be building a massive table for that suit. Well, I say massive, it's 3 foot by 3 foot, but I'm going over and above. I'm doing like full resin ceilings for the buildings and door frames, so I'm going to actually have to sculpt all them. But once I've sculpted them, I'll mass produce some silicon molds, and I'll build something once, and then if I'm going to make money off it, then I'll do it. But if I'm not, then I'd just buy it, if that makes sense.
I mean, there's a reason that I don't make trees, because I don't want to spend time making wire armatures and sculpting on top, and I have absolutely no interest. And it's not so much it is a time is money thing, but I mean, when I build, like, my business is my channel, so it's a little bit different, where it's only building stuff for that's the profitable time. But at the end of the day, my hobby time squeezed in between career, family, and channel is so limited that when I'm going to build something for my game as a person, as a hobbyist, it's going to be something that's fun, that I want to build. I don't want to make trees. I don't want to make barrels. Those things exist better than I can make them for so damn cheap. I'd rather spend my time coming up with some other thing to make than those.
I get asked so many times, can you show us how to make barrels? Can you show me how to make trash cans? Can you show me how to? I'm like, just buy a couple. Just buy them or print them or like. Yeah, I'll show you how to buy them. As long as it's for personal use, just reproduce your own. As in I can show you all that sort of stuff. As in, but for me, it's pointless making that. As in, if you only need 10 and they're £1 each, it'd take you a week to make 10 nice barrels. And I have that same mentality. I think it's different than you, Luke, based on a lot of stuff you're making, where I don't make my own flock and that sort of stuff, because I have it manufactured. I want to make stuff. I don't want to make the stuff to make stuff. You know, like I will just buy the Woodland Scenic stuff, because I'm not going to grind up foam and do it. Well, I tried making my own foam flocks, but I've got no idea how they grind it so fine. As it's near on impossible to do at home. So that's why I had to have it manufactured. And to be honest, if I actually just sat down and made flock all day, I think I'd shoot myself. So That's why I have it manufactured, but I have it made overseas. It's very well. It's all the colours of it. I chose the colours. I chose everything how I wanted it to work, and it's great.
Nice.
But I mean, with trees, I find trees very therapeutic, because at the end of it, you sit back and it's nice. But a full wire tree, I mean, I cake them in hot glue to get rid of the wire. I can do a full wire tree in about 2 hours now, but I still resort back to Woodland Scenics tree armatures and then sticking seafoam on and then sprinkling coarse ground on the top. But even that takes time.
Yeah.
But they sell very well for me, so I have to sit there. I mean, I don't know whether you noticed, but a couple of weeks ago I had severe super glue burns to my face because I've been sticking the seafoam to the trees for that long and using bicarb for accelerant, so it forms like a little plastic layer around the twig. I'd been doing it for, how time disappears when you're working. Like 6 hours later, I stood up and my face felt like I had sunburn.
Just from rubbing?
Like really bad burning all around back of my neck, top of my ears. Yeah, and then I had an allergic reaction to epoxy. Like it took a couple of days later, so it all hit me at once.
Oh man!
But I'm now allergic to epoxy, so brilliant. So that's like milliputs, green stuff.
Yeah, that's a pretty key material to be allergic to. I couldn't imagine if one day I all of a sudden got an allergic reaction to insulation.
I have a sculptor that works with me, and I have a painter that works with me now, and I have a guy. I have staff now, so it's
nice.
It helps. But I can handle the stuff with gloves on. I just can't. I can't eat it like I used to do.
Lick your fingers and
sculpt into a lip mouth and up your nose. I can't do that anymore.
So DMG asks what we think are what's our nicest minis to paint. What's our favorite minis to paint?
Slayers. Old Marauder and 90s Slayers.
I don't even know what that is, but I believe it.
Dwarf Slayers from Citadel.
Like I said, me and Wyloch are late to the mini game.
I have
mini
been doing it for years. I just think they're amazing.
Oh, I saw it when you posted a video painting those.
Christ on a bike, just zoom in. Anyway, it's a little ginger dwarf.
Mm-hmm.
They're just brilliant.
I'd have to say any Citadel miniatures. I know they're expensive, but you get what you pay for. And I actually, for even just for my D&D games, I'll look through the Age of Sigmar catalog just to get something epic looking.
See, as nice as all those like GW and other kind of gaming minis are that are not that are specific for other games, I'm always really, really reluctant to use them for D&D because at my table in my group, I have two guys who are long time like Warhammer players. And if I use like a dryad or something to represent a twig blight, which I've done because they look really good, it takes them out of the immersion because all they see is this other, they just see it as Warhammer. It's very, they tune in on that. And so I try to avoid that and try to not use like GW minis for that reason, although they're really nice. So that's why I'll stick to more, RPG related minis like the Reaper stuff and the Whiz Kids and what have you. I will say though that, painting Bones minis is kind of crap. It's not exactly it's frustrating because there is a limitation to how nicely you can paint them. Mm-hmm. And the more I get into the hobby of mini painting, the more frustrating it becomes. So I prefer at least using the metal stuff from them over the bone stuff. But I mean, you can't argue with the cost of bones for expendable monsters. So.
That's not bad. Hang on. Sorry, I'm just making myself a cup of tea.
So let's see if we have any other questions.
A question did come up earlier about a hybrid tile, and I told people to post, if you didn't see it in the chat, if you've made a hybrid tile, like a Wyloch BMC tile, post it in a comment on the Facebook, on the post that I made in the guild group, the one that you clicked to get here. Someone already has, but if you wanted to talk hybrid tiles, we could. I don't want to alienate Luke though.
Yeah. I think that's like almost a subject for a video in and of itself.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, we'll touch on not so much the materials and making it, but I know inherently that the 1.25" grid system that you use is superior to the 1-inch grid system. I recognize that. It is true. If I could go back in time and start from zero, I would probably start with that right from the get-go. And I've been really considering making a new set of tiles that integrate some of my techniques and some of your techniques, maybe an interlocking thing, maybe some walls, finally, even though I really am adamant against walls. And I want to use the 1.25" system, but where I land on it is that I have a massive collection of my own tiles that I've built on the 1-inch system, the 3x3 tiles, my cave tiles, my jungle tiles, my basic tiles, my wood tiles, they all work in the same form factor and I can mix and match them. And I'm really reluctant to start a new batch that the tiles are a totally different size.
Yeah.
It's not the grid size that matters, but it's the overall footprint of an individual tile.
And I don't think there will ever be any way around that. I mean, math is the math, and anyone who's committed to one way or another, ultimately it's not. The reasons that you think it's superior may not even be an issue for a lot of people, which is completely understandable. So, and
some of them aren't, but the things that it's good at, it's really good at. But I feel like as a crafter, I'm in this weird situation where my tiles are American tiles, adamant on stuck in Fahrenheit when the smarter Celsius exists. But I'm so good. My whole world exists around it where I can't change, which is funny because I'll give Americans such a hard time about using Fahrenheit. But that's where that's what I feel. 1-inch grid tiles are the Fahrenheit tiles. 1.25" tiles, that is the superior metric tile, even though it's not metric. But you know what I'm getting at.
And I don't think you have to change. There's no issue with experimenting. I'll give away. So for episode 100 is coming up for me, and it's going to be the case for a 1-inch grid. And is it
going to be a really bad case for it?
No, it's not. I'm not converting, but I'm showing how if I were going to do a 1-inch tile, these are the things I would do, because I think there are some nuances that people don't consider as far as how you do corners and lose the least amount of space, if you will, while also being able to do like single tile. So without getting, I don't want to belabor it, but the point is I'm making a whole set of tiles for that. I don't really intend to use them, but it's fun to experiment with and show people the options. So, I don't think anyone's talking about converting one way or the other. It's just a fun thing to experiment with, I think.
People are talking. This is like the only thing that is more of a hotbedded debate in our corner of the community is cardboard versus foam, I think, maybe. But other than that, I think the number one thing is your grid size. And I've seen some pretty heated arguments, which I think is kind of hilarious because it's all irrelevant and it's just a dumb game.
Yeah.
Where you pretend to be a wizard who shoots fireballs at goblins, and it doesn't matter how big your friggin' squares are.
No. Have any of you tried making just say like a handful of tiles and then just making a silicone mold and pouring them?
I've thought about it so many times, and I know that that's the end game, and that's what's inevitably going to happen. But for some reason, I've been reluctant to jump in on silicone molds and casting. And part of it is that while it would be efficient and good and great and have a great product, it sort of goes back to the thing we talked about with shipping and receiving product. I don't know if I want my hobby to become an assembly line of casting.
Oh, no, I get that. But I mean, that for example, if you're doing like a large run in a dungeon and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm just sat down producing roughly the same tile for the next 2 hours, you could just pour a bit of rubber and replicate 4 of them 20 times in literally half an hour. And I don't mean for it to ruin the hobby. I just mean to take the we all
The
have,
monotony out of the hobby.
we all have tedious points in the hobby. Rubber is a bit dear, but once you've got it, you've always got it then. And if they get damaged, the thing is, you can sell them to friends. You can. There's loads of different benefits to casting, and I love it. I see it as every time I've used. I mean, I'm new to it. I don't have any special machinery or anything. I just do high pause, and the time saving is just ridiculous.
I've thought about it so much, and I think the biggest thing that actually held me back from it is this weird situation that has arisen that I'm sure you guys can relate to, where we've all taken our hobby and we've put it on a platform where our hobby is now like a public thing, and we have an audience, and we're operating these businesses, these channels. So it actually, in a way, affects our hobby. And for me, one of the ways that manifests is that I have a limited amount of time to work on stuff. So if I decide to start doing something like silicone molding and casting, it's like I almost have to make that part of the public hobby, the channel, and do videos about it. And I'm not sure that that's the techniques that I want to go down for the channel, my audience who've kind of watch it, so that they don't have to use molds. Like, people are watching specifically me and Wyloch so that they can avoid doing things like her starts molds. So if all of a sudden I start being that guy, I think that makes me a little bit shy of it, even though I personally, as a hobbyist, want to go down that road. So,
I mean, for personal use more than your channel.
And I think that's the thing, is that I want to do it for personal use. But there no longer exists personal use building, because everything I do has to be related to the channel, because I don't have enough hobby time. This isn't the day I can quit my job and make this hobby my full-time career, the channel and the hobby, then it changes things, and then I can experiment and spend days doing that kind of stuff. But right now it's like Saturday, wake up in the morning, 8 hours, work, build, film, edit, release, and that's it. Like, I have to build for so that in a way taints what you're doing, and it affects the decisions you make. So I have to be careful. Needless to say, I want to get in molding, and I will inevitably. I just haven't crossed that bridge yet. Part of it too is that I'm a little bit intimidated by all the
Don't be. I've got a couple of videos on how to do it, mate, because literally I'm new to it, and all you've got to do is get the percentages right. You pour it from a height to get the air bubbles out. You build a little mold box. It's all a piece of piss. As in, I were terrified of it, but like everything, I jump in feet first and just think stuff it.
It's gonna happen eventually. It'll happen before I do 3D printed stuff. I'll tell you that much. I will start casting before I buy a 3D printer. I know that for a fact.
I refuse to buy one, because I think whatever I buy, that company's going to get free advertising out of, so I keep asking for them.
So we have someone, looks like we have a guest with audio, no video.
We have
He's muted right now.
A muted and uncameraed person.
He's still muted.
Dun, dun, dun.
Someone is there.
Because I'm new to all this D&D things, can somebody, in a nutshell, I know that this might be a forever argument for you D&Ders, but 1 inch and 1.5 inch tiles, in a nutshell, what's the pros and cons?
This is Bill's gonna answer this question.
The first episode of my channel goes over it, but basically standard humanoid miniatures are on a 1 inch base. So maps are often drawn with shared walls. They're drawn on grid paper with shared walls. So if you try and build that room with tiles, the wall eats up space and you can't put the miniature there. All right, so if you go to 1 1/4 inch and you have your walls be 1/4 inch thick, some of the game spaces are rectangular, but you're guaranteed that a miniature can always fit. And then the other thing is, so maps for decades, the standards for a map has been a square represents 10 inches, 10 feet in the game, 10-foot square, fits 4 miniatures. It won't on any standard dungeon tile, but if you go to 1 1/4 inch grid, it does. That's it. It's really, it's not a big deal.
It's really not.
It's not, but somehow I built a channel off of it.
I'll base the miniatures on 20mm bases.
Sure, yeah, you could do that. Yeah.
You could also, well, one of the other things to keep in mind and to consider is that D&D for a long time in the rule set is 1 inch on your map equals 5 feet, and people use 1 inch graph paper, and people use miniatures. One, like Bill mentioned, when it wasn't a 3D wall eating up space, it's just a marker line, the mini could kind of partially stand on that line, so it didn't matter. But the other thing is, like minis are getting bigger.
Yeah.
Like the scale is just growing and growing and growing and growing, and Ral Partha minis from 20 years ago are smaller and will fit in that space easier than these big, heroic, bulky, scaled minis, right? So by scaling up the whole thing to 1.25 inches, it just gives you more breathing room. But for some reason, a lot of people get really adamantly against that for some reason. It's like the D&D book says that 1 inch equals 5 feet, and they don't realize that it's a scaled thing, and it's exactly the same. It's just
the interesting thing is it's the people on both sides of the argument, like me, that you have to be completely anal retentive to even care one way or the other. Like most people, 95% of people probably don't. So really it boils down to, if you don't care, consider the material. Like, I'm a cardboard guy, as you mentioned earlier, foam versus cardboard. I like the instant gratification of it, and I like working with it. We eat a lot of cereal, so I got cereal boxes, and it's just what I prefer to work with. And the aesthetic that I've come up with, it hides the seams of the tiles really well. So, yeah, I'll leave it. I won't ramble on. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's just an arbitrary.
It's trapped from the game, so it doesn't matter. It's all arbitrary, isn't it?
It doesn't matter at all. The only thing where it matters is if you get a guy like me who's been building it one way for a bunch and has a big collection.
Yeah.
And then I realize, hey, you know what? This other arbitrary number works a little bit better for these reasons. I got no problem doing it. It's just now the form factor of the two, they don't play as well together. But they can. You can absolutely just drop them all on a table and match them. It doesn't matter at all. The only reason it matters for me is that I sometimes like to create maps where you have rooms, and as I lay them out 3x3 tiles at a time, and it goes up and it twists and all these tiles, I want these 2 points to connect back together properly. So for me, every tile is 3 inches by 3 inches. If I start mixing and matching, then the maps, they just won't reconnect.
Yeah.
And that's the only holdup for me to switch. Like I said, if I go back and start from 0, I would just choose that arbitrary number instead of my arbitrary number, and we'd be good to go.
But you can have fun in D&D without any terrain at all.
You don't need any of this. It's all meaningless. Like
it's all just fun. It's a fun meta, fun sub hobby.
Yeah, which is the weird thing about the tabletop RPGs versus, say, tabletop wargaming is, maybe you can, but I don't think you can play a game of 40K without anything. Like, you can't. I guess you could. You could just like cut out a little piece of paper and move it, but it like.
I can't play 40K with things, so never mind.
There you go.
Well, that's a whole other conversation.
That's another thing entirely.
All right, so whoever our guest is, I apologize. Unless you're there, going once.
Hi.
Going
twice.
Oh, he is there.
Yeah, he's there. Hiding. You all right, mate?
I still see nothing.
I heard
I don't have a video camera on this computer.
Oh,
I
now
there,
I
I hear you.
You're starting to hear it. Who do we have here?
Hey, my name's Eric.
Hey, Eric.
I'm from California.
How you
Where
doing?
all my Home Depots and Lowe's and whatnot got rid of my XPS foam, so I'm having to find some.
I have heard horror stories of California and their regulations.
Oh, right. Everything causes cancer in California.
Yeah. So, just to follow on the grid talk that you guys were having, there's something that we've done in our groups with the square grids and the hex grids that you might have an interesting thought on, since you guys think in this. But just because we're old, like 3.5 gamers, where the diagonal going on squares kind of limits your movement a lot. And when you have the hard corners within dungeons, you don't cut those corners. You kind of have to go around and take extra movement. So it feels much more cramped when you're on the square grids. So what we do is when we're doing something inside, whether we're inside a building or inside a dungeon, we use the squares. And then when we're doing something out in the wilderness, we use the hexes. And it just feels so much more open, like you're able to move kind of in any direction you want and move around. And I know you guys don't use a lot in hexes, but
so I'll jump in because that's like a thing I think about quite a bit and play around with a lot in my games of trying different things. I don't use hexes in my games because building anything with hexes is really hard. I can't draw hexagons on a piece of foam nearly as quickly or easily as I can squares. So I avoid it, but I do like the idea of hexes for movement diagonally because in D&D, following the rules as written and using the squares is a really, in my opinion, terrible way to track movement. I think it's actually, it negatively affects the enjoyment of the game. So in my group, I have a gridded square system on some of my tiles. I sometimes use a battle map. Those grids are aesthetic for me, and they're used for players to make very quick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves. But often I still, even if I have a grid on the table, I'm still playing gridless, and movement is on a straight line on a tape measure any which way. I don't care what the grid says one way or another. So I kind of just ignore the grid and just use it for aesthetics mostly.
Yeah, outdoor scenes, I don't use any sort of grid. I do completely gridless. The reason I like the grid for interior stuff is because I like to design combat and puzzles that have where tactics are important. So distances mean something. Yeah, like a puzzle. I won't waste time describing it, but I have puzzles where proximity matters and distance matters, and so that's why I like to do it for inside. But for outsides, no, frontline gaming mat and a bunch of scatter terrain on that.
awesome.
And outside,
like all your guys' videos. And the way that I usually watch your videos, I know a lot of times you present your videos as, well, I don't know why you'd want to listen to me, or you try to make them really quick for YouTube, which is great, and I'm sure most of the people take them in those bite sites. What I do is that I have a streaming service hooked up in my garage and a little TV, and I just put you guys on in the background and just let it play as I'm doing my own crafting and stuff. It's like, for some reason, I can watch all of your videos and jump around between different channels for like 4 hours, and it's great. So thanks.
Cool.
that's what I do when I craft, is I just watch other people's stuff in the background.
Yep.
Yep.
I binge watched Luke a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
You what, sorry, mate?
I binge watched Luke a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think the main person I watch is the Slingshot channel.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a German who makes it weaponizes things that are not weapons because they're classed as toys in the German law, and it just lethalizes like Nerf guns and is it not not that I'm crazy, it's just I find him very funny. He's very good YouTube.
Entertaining.
Yeah, very entertaining. And Luke Towan, because he's just always
that
guy's
watching Luke Towan and what's his name, the painter Zoroastro, is that his Zoroastro? So a mini painter, both of them do just like exceptional work. Their videos are just like really clean and sharp and just nice, and it's like watching a proper television show unlike any of us.
Yours is pretty good though, man. Mine.
Well, I think I've hit the level of 90s cable access show, like the Tom Green show or something. That's about where I'm at with professional level. But yeah, exactly. But guys like Luke Towan it's the real deal, and I watch all this stuff going, I could build something that nice if I really wanted to, but I'm not.
It's just the fact that he's working at HO scale, which is about 18 millimeters, and he makes that look real.
Yeah.
At 18 mil. Yeah. I sometimes look at him and call him alt names under the sun.
But we have to remember that people are going to touch our stuff too. That's I always want to make stuff that nice, and it's never like, it's not an issue of time or effort, because I could give that if I wanted to. The problem is that I build stuff for my game to play with, and I would never want my greasy fingered drunk friends touching something that is as nice as the model railroad stuff and as delicate. That'll, like, if you make a little tin corrugated steel shack that's out of like metal leaf, that's so thin that you blow on it and it ruins your, we can't do that in what we're doing, unfortunately.
I tell you what does work very well though. I've got a little corrugator, like that for corrugating paper and things. If you can put beer cans through it.
Okay.
And they work very well. And
it won't dent so easily.
So you can do the same thing in wargaming. That's one thing that I've always tried to do. If I see it, because I watch a hell of a lot of train modelers, because they do shit over most wargamers. And I watch their stuff and I think, how can I wargame proof this? It's like with the seafoam. Wargamers won't use seafoam because with it being like a weed.
So delicate.
Do you know what seafoam is?
Like the sponge, the natural sponge?
No. It's like this stuff.
Oh, okay. For really, really nice, realistic armatures for trees.
I use this as branch structures to armatures, but what I do with this, if I'm using it on trees now, I dip it in latex. And that way it's wargame proof. It's great.
It's funny because the wargamers will look at model railroad builders, and it's like this high level, nice detail, and they'll try to refine it down to a little bit less detailed, but more rugged. And then we'll take that and we'll make it more like way down. Like we have to make it, it's like modular, throw it around, make it out of cardboard, drop Doritos on it.
Christmas tree, that'll do.
Exactly. And that's kind of always been my goal with the channel, is to make things reduced down to the bottom level of effort and durability, but still look kind of all right.
Yeah.
But it's funny how there's those tiers like that.
So a quick reminder, the first guild build is coming to an end at the end of the month. We've gotten, 15 submissions or something like that?
I don't know. I think it might be more than that. They just come through the email, and I've been just quickly browsing them. I haven't had to take much time to really look at them until we're ready to. So the Tabletop Crafters Guild, we did it's a contest for February where people need to build something out of an item. And this first one we did, it was soda bottle. I don't care what kind of soda bottle, if it's glass, plastic, size, what country it's from, whatever. Take a soda bottle and make something out of it. And people are submitting their photos, and we're going to, as a group, as the guild, refine it down to a top, I can't remember how much we decided, maybe top 5 or something. Yeah, it's Tabletop Crafters Guild. It's like our Facebook group of all our channels combined. And we'll refine it down to a few people, and then we're going to let YouTube vote for the winner. And there's some cool prizes. DMG is offering some prizes of his content that he's going to send to the winners. And then there's also a big, huge 3D printed whack of stuff from a Kickstarter going on that I don't remember all the details for, but it's a butt ton of, it's like modern post-apocalyptic terrain stuff. So there's a big prize for it. Basically, it's just a motivation to get people going. We have 2 categories. One is just the open general category, but we also did one for kids. So, because we get a lot of people who are doing this hobby with their kids, so kids can join up and compete, and they don't have to compete against the adults. And building stuff out of soda bottles.
On DM's Craft, right? Scotty's channel.
Yeah.
Results will be on the DM's craft.
I think that the poll we decided would be hosted through his channel, and people can vote there, and we'll announce a winner. And there's been some pretty neat stuff coming in, actually, especially over the past week, with people doing some really nice stuff where they will have to tell us how they used a soda bottle, because it's well disguised. It doesn't look like there's a soda bottle left in it, which is really cool. We're trying to do it in a way where we pick a one specific thing, and it's pretty open, but it has to be an item that anyone can get their hands on, because it's a global audience, right? So we can't, everybody can get a pop bottle of some variety and make something neat with it. That's that. So when's the deadline?
I've realized I've been added to this. Somebody's added me to it.
Okay, there you go.
So I have been a member for quite a while, but because I've not been on it, I don't get notifications.
It's a pretty big group.
Yeah, it is huge. I'm just looking at it now thinking, why have I not had a notification? But I suppose if I've not actually been on it, I get added to that stuff now. I'm like, I don't know what I've got.
It's a group in and of itself that's huge. I don't know how many members we have now. Last time I checked, it was 17-some thousand. I'm sure it's more.
We're over 18.
18,000 people.
Ridiculous.
I looked at it, the metrics, and I don't remember exactly what the number was, but it was something like that group gets, it was a few hundred posts a day.
Yep.
So it's not like, it's not an easy thing to keep up on. I'm on there every day, and I only see a small amount of it. So
I'll make a
busy place.
So do we want one more caller here?
If
if
we
you
got a caller,
questions,
we'll
show us some
before
terrain or something.
Okay, I'm looking at the chat. So people have probably been firing questions that have been unseen because the chat's hard to pay attention to, but now I'm staring at it. So type your questions before we wrap it up, and we'll go. Patrick just made 100 of my tiles, which is always making 100 tiles is, see, listen to Luke, just cast
rubber.
it.
Yeah.
Rubber.
Like this, look. That's 50 bases and 6 big bases in 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So
nice.
It's only a matter of time before I go down that rabbit hole. I know this.
I've been using my 3D printer for bases. Model them up. I can sculpt whatever I want in 3D Studio Max, and then print custom bases. So I made some Eldar, like, arcane looking curves and stuff. And if I'm ever like missing a base or something, it's easy to whip one up. But
okay, so someone asked if you're using dental plaster. So I think that's a good opportunity, Luke. If you say now you've gotten down the road of casting, if you have a video about it, mention that.
Got
but
videos coming out soon.
Like, what is your preferred material for casting in terms of durability, ease of use, costs?
Yeah,
plaster, resins.
For the woodland scene, it's rock molds, which I advise everybody to get because they're just awesome for the money. I use plaster for that. I don't use dental plaster. I use. My dad works. My dad's a fine artist. He used to do a lot with like old manor houses and restorations and things. And he used to make rosettes, and we use something called stone plaster. Now, people have always said you need to use stone plaster, or you need to use a plaster called Herculite or Cristacal or all these names. But the stone plaster I buy, and it's £6 for 25 kilo. You can't break it. So £6 must be what, $12?
Something like that, or less.
Yeah.
Well, it depends if you're talking whose dollars. They've got different dollars. One's worth more. I won't say which.
I think Canadian dollars are a half of a pound.
Yeah.
But literally, it's strong as hell, and like I say, it's £6 for 25 kilos. But when I'm making like bases, I use resin because you use very little of it.
It's small. Yeah.
It's small. It dries in 10 minutes. The problem is with all plasters, any sort of sharp details that will chip eventually. Mm-hmm. Even dental plaster. I mess with dental plaster. I don't see. It's almost like a diminishing return. You put all that extra money into it, and it's no
better
really.
At the end of it, it's still just plaster.
Yeah, all plasters are roughly the same. If you're getting the crafting sort of like plaster of Paris and stuff like that, they're a bit crap. But they're all right. They do the job. But a proper stone plaster, as in if you look at people that make rosettes and people that actually cast like fireplaces and that sort of stuff, you just get a stone plaster that they use, and you'll find it really cheap because they need to build one thing. They'll need bags, not just. I mean, one bag will last me 6 months. But now I'm using it for the sculptor mold stuff that I use sheds of, because I make my own sculptor mold now. I mean, I go through a 25 kilo bag in about a month. So
that's a lot of plaster.
Yeah, but I mix it with paper pulp now as well and make my own sculptor mold with it, and I use it for everything because I can build, like I said, this diorama that I built, I can build one of them in an evening because it dries so quick.
Everything cures super fast.
Yeah, because it cures in 10 minutes.
So we got another question here. William asks, where do you guys store all your stuff? And I'm going to just assume when by stuff he means finished products and not like tools and materials, because that's obviously our workbenches. So especially for D&Ders, you make a lot of crap, and where do y'all store it? I mean, I have a game room tour. I got a garage that is a game room, and I got bookshelves. Cheap IKEA bookshelves hold a lot of terrain, and I only keep stuff that is display worthy that I like. If it's quick crafts that I could just throw in a box, I usually just end up throwing them out, and I don't hold on to them, and I only keep my favorite things, and I keep them on shelves in my game room. Bill?
I throw it in a closet. It's pretty unorganized.
I know you keep all your tiles in printer boxes and whatnot.
Yeah, the tiles are really organized. Yeah, I have inserts for them, but up there, that's also, I mounted some shelves on the wall. Up top, that's all my crags for wargaming. And then in those cells, there's a bunch of other stuff. Necron stuff.
I mean, with me, storage, and I haven't really got much for me because everything I build for other people. But like the little dioramas and stuff I build to take to shows, I've got like a little shelving in my casting room. And I literally just keep the few bits that I actually own in there. Yeah. I've got a box of terrain that I have for one table, and that's it. I can't keep any more because I've got so little space. What you'd call a little space is huge. What I call a little space is tiny.
Little.
Yeah, as in this is my workspace. As in I've got like my terrain area there, and then like my painting desk there, and then that's it. And then I have another room which is even smaller than this. It's about a quarter of the size, which I do my casting in, and that's how I run my business.
That brings me to a question. Because you're doing this as a business and you're selling stuff and making stuff for other people, do you find it hard to let that stuff go? Do you have an urge to like hold on to it and it's like your baby and it's hard? Because I know people have asked me to do commissions and I flat out say no, because I would finish it and I would just keep it and be like, keep your money, I'm keeping my thing.
Yeah. Some things I do. I mean, I'm doing a commission at the minute on, I'm doing 1 foot modular table. And he sent me a house from Tabletop World. I don't know whether you've seen Tabletop World buildings.
Yeah.
Even though he's paid for it and he's paying me quite a lot of money to do the table, he's not getting that building back. As in, I've spent literally 3 days painting the bloody thing, and it's
Okay, so someone asked, hey Jeremy, this is a very important question to me, so I will answer this question. I have 1 inch and I have 1.5 inch XPS foam, but don't have a foam cutter. How would I cut that possible?
Well,
yeah, it depends what you mean by cut. If you just want to like cut it, sculpt it in squares, just get a knife and cut it. If you want to make that material thinner over a large area, there is no magic answer. A hot wire table is really the only way to do a clean cut. But if it's just for cutting the squares out, yeah, just a good utility knife, straight edge. You can, if you have a hard time what you'll get when you're cutting through thick material with a knife is you'll get beveled cuts because it's really hard to keep that blade plumb. So one trick is that you can take some MDF or chipboard or something and put it on the top and the bottom and sandwich it together and you have a straight edge that's on the top of the foam and an end on the bottom of the foam, so your knife blade rides the top and the bottom in a perfect 90-degree square, and you don't get those weird beveled cuts. But there was another question that I saw that was interesting. Where was it?
Do we like digital displays? So people put TVs in tables and use that as the as terrain. Personally, heresy, not for me.
Heresy.
Yeah.
I think that the TV stuff is cool, and I would actually really enjoy playing on it. I think it's neat. I think if it's the only thing you're using, well, that's not our hobby. But like a battle mat, I think if you put a screen down and then you also add some 3D elements, that could be super cool. I think if you have a projector projecting down, washing images over, so that could be cool. My problem with it is that I want less things to have to troubleshoot and take care of while I'm DMing, not more. And I have a hard rule as a DM that there are no laptops involved. I had a laptop for a while for controlling music and stuff, and I got rid of it because it's just a problematic distraction. And I, as a DM, want to be responding to my players with interesting and engaging descriptions and dialogue, and not just hold on, let me set up. Oh, this doesn't open. Oh, blue screen of death. I don't want that, so that's why I don't have a TV screen, because I don't want a laptop.
Here's the big thing for me. Luke, show us what you were going to show us. You don't get this from a screen. This will be a good punctuation mark for our live stream here.
There you go.
Yep.
Keep your computer screens. As in, yeah, there's a water mill going to be going on that, and there's a whole water effects. I mean, again, there'll be a video on it. But yeah, this stuff's just unbelievable. When people say they're far too expensive, if anybody's actually seen this stuff, there's no way I could make that for £100.
Yeah.
The level of detail in that is ridiculous. If you've not seen, I mean, I'm not paid by these guys, and I'm just that impressed. And they're very clever. They won't send it to you unassembled either. They send it to you assembled, so you can't copy it.
Really?
So they are just kits to die for. They really are. And I wish I were a millionaire so I could afford a table's worth of this stuff.
And in my eyes, if you're playing a game like D&D, you're trying to get immersed in a story. You're trying to get immersed in a world. And seeing that on the table will help me do that. It will make me picture that house and get exciting. I find that if I'm looking at a digital screen, that kills the vibe for me. But I mean, lots of people love it.
Fell all over it. Is it Shadowfell? Is that like a really dark, deep place in
Shadowfell? I don't know. I actually probably, maybe if you want. I don't play in any real like published world. It's my own world, so I actually don't know.
I don't know. I don't know whether he's making these up or I don't know how the game works properly. I'm getting there.
I feel like Shadowfell is a word that I've read before somewhere. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. Could be
a very dark, awful place that I don't want to be in. So every time I go into a room, I shit myself. So
all right. I don't think anyone else was going to call in. What time is it over there, Luke? 2:30?
2:30.
2:30. We appreciate your stamina.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you joined us, Luke. And for those of you who don't know, I asked Luke to join in a YouTube comment about 15 minutes before this thing started, and he showed up and he stuck the whole thing out, so that's super cool. We're glad to have you here. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, no, I like it. Like I say, I like your channels. As in, we all. As in, it's like even though I'm doing, it's all transferable skills. As in, it's all stuff that. It's like with the texture rollers, we all use them. I use them for paths and walls and everything else. You use them for buildings. And when I first got it, first thing I thought about was this has got to work on foam. And then, but then you just take it to the next level and literally use it on everything.
Well,
so it's
and same thing. Like I said to you, what was it it wasn't that long ago you made a video about the DAS clay with PVA glue and the mixing it up. A couple days ago now, I needed to build for the guy who says he doesn't build trees, I decided I needed to build a tree. But because I wanted like a really gnarly, sleepy, hollow Woodland Scenics doesn't make that.
No.
And so my first attempt, I was like, I'm not doing a wire armature. I just refused, just not interested. So I made a tinfoil armature. I was like, this is great. And I put some air dry clay on it. I sculpted it and it looked amazing. And the next day, what happens? Crack, it shrinks. The armature doesn't shrink. And I'm like, you're an idiot. You should know better as a builder that this is going to happen. So whatever. And then I thought, well, I should probably just make it out of polymer clay. I should make it out of some Fimo or some Sculpey. But I couldn't really think of it's not my medium. I don't use it too much. And I couldn't think of a way where I could make a tinfoil armature that's hot glued together that I could then put in the oven that wouldn't melt the internal glue. And I started thinking, well, I could epoxy. What happens if you put epoxy glue in the oven? And I realized, okay, I'm not going down that road. So I saw that video and I said, screw it. I'm just getting a brick of DAS. I'm mixing in some glue and I'm plopping it on the table and I'm going to sculpt a tree. And that's what I did. And it worked out awesome. It's still drying because it's thick at the trunk. It takes a while, but I made the same mistake you did where I put way too much PVA glue in and it's a big sticky mess. But I made some test pieces to gauge how strong it was, like some little, maybe half-inch round rolls. And that stuff is hard. It's not going to break. That thing, if I throw it, it's going to break, but it's going to hold up on the game table.
As well. So I mean, people say it doesn't hold detail well. It does.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say super fine detail, but it holds enough for what we need.
It holds as much detail as you need from a resin rolling pin.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're not going to be sculpting, a beautiful piece of art. It'll hold enough detail for game props. So
I mean, the big thing with the DAS as well, if anybody wants a really good cheap, I think I commented as well telling you, air drying clay, the better air drying clay, and it's a lot cheaper, is called nylon clay.
Now, is that a generic term for a type of
clay? It's what it's actually called, not a brand.
Yeah.
It's nylon reinforced clay. So it's an air drying clay, but they use nylon rather than paper.
So it's got shredded fibers of nylon in it?
Nylon. And I bought, 24 kilos of the stuff for about 12 quid.
I'll have to check to see if that's something we can get here.
It stinks like iron as well. It's got like a really metallic-y smell. But I think they use it in pottery, for making molds. But yeah, it's really cheap. So if you get it in your country, nylon.
Yeah, I'll have to look into
nylon reinforced clay. It's really good. But what thing as well is what you've got to think about with it. It's really soft. It's not like like DAS is really firm and hard to use. Nylon clay, it holds your thumbprint, as in it's like a really soft dough. It's like Play-Doh almost.
But then dries really hard.
Yeah, but it's so much better. But again, it's not branded as anything. So I don't know what I can tell people to search apart from nylon clay.
I will look into it. I'm sure everyone in the States can find it super easily because they can get everything easily. It's a little bit harder up here. It'll probably not be available locally and then cost $60 to ship it to me through Amazon. But I'll see. Check.
All right. So good wishes to DMG. Hope he feels better.
Yeah, get well, buddy.
Yeah, I'll send you.
Although maybe don't get well because your wife is better at the videos than you are. So.
Yeah. Yep. All right. And all right, nothing else. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Hey, Luke, thanks for joining us. Hope to see you again on one of these. It's every month. Remember, Guild Build is ending at the end of the month. Results on Scotty's channel. I think that's everything. Gareth texted me yelling, "Don't forget to say it." So I think that's everything I was supposed to say.
Thanks, Dad.
All right. Cool. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Later.
All right. Good night.
Good night.